Konnichiwa. Today is the fourth and final episode of our Crime and No Punishment series, or the fourth and final part of our Crime and No Punishment episode, posted in 4 installments, depending on which approach you take. And today we will be talking about the Kobe child murderer, Shinichiro Azuma. Sorry, but not exactly sorry, about the dog that you will see in this episode. He had to pee very badly, as do I. And this is an interesting twist to the name child murderer, because he didn't just murder children, he also was a child.
Yeah.
Which introduces an interesting dynamic into whether this belongs in the Crime and No Punishment lineup. I think of all of the ones we've discussed so far, we'll kind of go to the end and kind of rank where they all fit in terms of how egregious their Crime and No Punishment was. But starting with Shinichiro Azuma in July 7th, 1982 in Kobe, Japan. He grew up in a typical middle-class household. He had parents and siblings and all of that. But he had troubling behavioral changes when he was 13 years old in 1995 that was so bad that his parents started taking him to child psychologists. He had developed an obsession with weapons and violence, and was carrying cutting tools and survival knives around, which is part of just being a teenager.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like around here, that's just kind of normal.
Yeah, but around here, the problem is when the kids get guns. There, if the kids never get guns because the parents don't have guns, the knives are already a problem. Yeah. So, but also that's somewhat normal not to carry in school in elementary school.
Yeah. That's true. I thought you said it was 13.
No, that's when he started going to child psychiatrists. It started in elementary school. He had an obsession with weapons. When he was 13, he had already had disturbing behaviors such as stealing and burning classmates' shoes, slashing their bicycle tires with a box cutter, and hitting other students with things like tennis rackets. And then, this is probably what actually caused the psychiatrists to get called, and psychologists. I do know there's a difference. I know I said both were involved, because he started getting medicated eventually. But the big one that probably involved that was he started killing animals, including frogs, pigeons, and cats between the ages of 10 and 12. He said he killed at least 20 cats growing up.
Wow.
In one case, cutting off a cat's paws and dissecting it. Our dog here is getting very excited hearing about this. Tell me. Do you think the mic picked that up?
Probably a little bit.
Awesome. I just don't want them to think I'm talking to the void. Because he's staying right below camera. So he was already a little weirdo. He also exhibited symptoms of conduct disorder, dissociation, and sexual sadism, but not severe enough, according to psychiatrists, to legally diminish his responsibility. Also during this time, and this is retroactively something he said, he's not exactly a reliable narrator, he exhibited a dark fantasy persona he called Sito Sakakibara. I don't know how to say it. It's a fake name. And it contains different characters meaning alcohol, devil, rose, saint, and other things. He described it as his evil side. And by early 1997, these violent fantasies began turning into real attacks. So his first confirmed attacks occurred on February 10th, 1997. At around 4:35 p.m., he attacked 2 12-year-old girls from elementary school as they walked home. He struck them in the head with hammer-like objects, potentially a hammer. They're not exactly sure. It might have been a lead pipe, which he used later. One girl suffered serious injuries and required more than a week of medical treatment. And then a month later, on March 16th, 1997, at around 12:25 p.m., Azuma attacked Ayika Yamashita, a 10-year-old fourth grader, while she was near a residential building close to her elementary school. He bludgeoned her with a hammer or metal object, causing catastrophic head injuries. And a few days later, in the hospital, she ended up dying. And that's a picture of her. So, crazy enough, his violent streak continued about 5 to 10 minutes later, when he took a knife 13 centimeters long and stabbed another girl, 9 years old, outside a park. Luckily, she survived the attack, and her name's been hidden because she was so young when it happened. Later that day, Azuma wrote in his diary, "I carried out sacred experiments today to confirm how fragile human beings are." Police struggled to kind of identify who the attacker might have been. They thought the assaults might have been random because they happened so close together. They thought no one was... They happened close together with different weapons. And, oh my gosh, the dog is going crazy here.
He decapitated his elephant.
I'm glad you said that. May 24th, 1997.
Moses, give me that.
At around 2 p.m., Azuma encountered June Hayes, an 11-year-old student. He was a student in the special ed program. He had a learning disability. Azuma lured him to Tank Mountain, claiming he would show him a turtle that he had found. There, he strangled Hayes with the boy's own shoelaces. And after killing him, he hid the body inside a television relay station building on the mountain. You said he beheaded his toy? Notice I said he hid the body inside the relay station. He returned to the site on May 25th and used a hacksaw to decapitate the body. Then he cut out the eyes and cut the cheeks to the ears and tried to remove the tongue and only damaged it severely. And then he rode his bicycle another 2 days later on May 27th, and at around 2 in the morning he took the head to a junior high school and put it inside a plastic bag. The mutilated tongue no longer was just inside the mouth, and instead in front of it there was a note placed. The note said, "This is the beginning of the game. Try to stop me if you can, you stupid police. I desperately want to see people die. It is a thrill for me to commit murder. A bloody judgment is needed for my years of great bitterness." Japanese media widely published the note. Panic spread across the country. Many other letters began coming in. The writing was very formal style. It was a type of writing. It's kind of, imagine if letters today were written in cursive. Obviously, kids in certain schools learn cursive. I learned cursive. But most people our age didn't learn cursive. And so, if a letter was received in nice cursive, it would really throw the police off. That's the equivalent of that he used a very formal script that was considered somewhat impressive for a kid to use. So yeah, there's just some pictures of his letters. So Hayes' decapitated body was found only a few hours after the head was discovered, and newspapers almost immediately were able to connect that killing to the schoolgirl attacks that had happened earlier. But police noticed that, in potentially a future episode, this killing and the note was reminiscent of the Zodiac murders in the United States. If you guys remember Zodiac Killer. Well, don't remember, it was during the 60s, but remember reading about him or hearing about him. And according to some of Azuma's friends, he had developed a fascination through a book about the case that he had read. So all you sickos that are obsessed with true crime, look at the road you're heading down. Having heard of the discovery of Hayes' remains, Azuma was surprised that his murder site was found. Because this kid was not a evil genius, he just thought he was.
Yeah.
He's like leaving letters for the police and everything, but because of the formal writing in the letters, some journalists would publish that it was a highly educated adult man in his 30s. However, linguists noticed that his expressions were common from popular manga books. And so the professionals knew pretty quickly that the perpetrator was not a social person, and they thought his writing was so bad it might not even be a native speaker.
Oh, wow.
And they thought it might be someone who was a native Chinese speaker. Unfortunately for investigators, there were multiple middle-aged men in like untrained workman clothing reported around the mountain at the time of the murder. Someone called the Padlock Man, who was seen at the supermarket where Azuma had stolen the hacksaw.
Mm-hmm.
And another was a scooter man who was seen driving a scooter. But fortunately, after the police identified them, they quickly dismissed them as suspects. Other reports mentioned vehicles that had been driven, like a black Nissan or a white van with varying descriptions of their drivers. And newspapers did what newspapers do and printed that, murder Nissan spotted in all three crimes, and kind of just made up connections that they could to try to make it a more sensational story than it was. The newspaper Sankei Shimbun speculated that the perpetrator was left-handed. However, police reports said that the perpetrator was right-handed. This was due to the newspaper being more into the theory that the stab wounds were coming from the left hand.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is if you stab someone from the front with your left hand, it looks the same as stabbing someone from behind with your right hand, so that's not really good evidence.
Oh, yeah.
The police used the idea that he was right-handed due to the pressure marks found on the base of his head, which matched a right hand, the handprint pattern.
Yeah.
Based on the press coverage, Azuma thought he was not going to be caught. He was like, police are looking for an adult.
Yeah.
And he decided in his infinite wisdom to write a manifesto to the press, worried that the note left on the head didn't get him into the popular headlines enough. So he wrote messages in what he thought was the style of a man in his 30s from an unstable home life who resented the school system for bullying. He made several drafts in his school notebook, incorporating a lot of phrases and characters from his previous note. He copied the writing onto a separate sheet in a much neater format and then burned all the previous practice letters, which was probably the smartest thing in this entire case. He postmarked it on June 3rd with no address or name. On June 6th, the letter was received by a newspaper, and enclosed was the 3-page letter written in red ink, which included a 6-character name, Sakakibara Sito, the same name I mentioned earlier that he made up for himself when he was younger and cutting cats' paws off. The characters were used in the first message that was left inside the mouth, but now were made to form a name. In the letter, he claimed responsible for the killing and mutilation and threatened that more killings would follow. He also included a signature in English, which said, Shul Killer, because he didn't realize how to spell school. You can actually see that on the middle letter in the signature line, Shul Killer,
That's
in
what that
English.
is.
And he used double L's. For Shul. Obviously Killer has double L's, but his handwriting was apparently bad enough that the TV broadcaster mispronounced his Sakikibara name as Anibara, which means demon rose, which he disliked, writing that he wanted to be called by his quote-unquote real name. He tried blaming everyone but himself on himself being a weirdo, including the Japanese educational system, saying that it was compulsory education and children are seen as invisible. Honestly, some decent points, I guess. But doesn't in any way explain committing murder, especially on an 11-year-old who has nothing to do with the education system, and a 10-year-old who also has nothing to do with making the education system. He claimed that his crimes differed from pathetic revenge. Sure, bud. In that he stylized murders, he made them into a game, which created for him a new world, all your own. Writing that he had put his life at stake for the sake of the game. If I'm caught, I'll probably be hanged. Police should be angrier and more tenacious in pursuing me. Is the camera on him?
No.
Put the camera on him. There we go.
Well, lay down. Lay down.
Don't cut that part. That's funny. Azuma said that he was driven by a natural urge to kill, which was probably the only honest part in his entire letter. He said, "It's only when I kill that I am liberated from the constant hatred that I suffer and I am able to attain peace. It is only when I give pain to people that I can ease my own pain." He also called the people he killed vegetables.
Bruh.
Why?
And he really thought, well, he clearly thought a lot of himself. He thought he was fooling the police and that he could convince profilers that he was a 30-year-old man downtrodden with the school system, and was stunned that they found a body he put in a relay station tower quickly. He said at the end of his letter, "From now on, if you misread my name or spoil my mood, I will kill 3 vegetables a week. If you think I can only kill children, you are greatly mistaken. I have the ability to kill the same person twice." The newspapers assumed that the letter was authentic and similar to other letters written by famous serial killers, who also write taunting letters to the authority with the purpose of trying to bother, confuse, or anger the police. Azuma was quickly found to be involved and was given a voluntary order to be questioned by police in Hayes' murder on the 28th of June. He denied involvement, and then the police claimed that they matched his handwriting with that in his journals. And Azuma started crying and confessed to killing Hayes, as well as Yamashita, and attacking 3 other girls. He was then officially arrested for murder and abandonment of a corpse. According to Azuma, the secret name he had was from his bad side when he was in elementary school. He claimed that it was all part of a ritual. Unfortunately, his identity was required to remain hidden by Japanese law, and so the police only referred to him as Boy A in official press releases, despite him confessing to murdering 2 people much younger and attacking others. So luckily a photo of him was published on July 2nd by the photo magazine Focus. By the time a recall was ordered, pretty much every issue had been sold out. And so people at least knew what the killer looked like.
Yeah.
Although they still weren't allowed to have Azuma's name printed. By 13th of July, they had received all of the confession, as well as the explanation for the details. They had found 3 hammers and a dagger that he had thrown into a pond. And he was officially indicted for the assaults and placed in a juvenile holding facility on the 25th of July. Here's where it was rough, and why it fits to be a fitting finale for our Crime and No Punishment series. He was tried at Kobe Family Court on the 4th of August 1997. He had EEG, CT, MRI scans, chromosome testing, hormone testing. He claimed to experience auditory hallucinations. All of the testing came back and found no abnormalities. Psychological examination determined that he had conduct disorder, symptoms of depersonalization and dissociation, though not significant enough to result in diminished responsibility, as he was otherwise aware of his actions. Also, given that he separated the body away, tried to pose the letter as being from a 30-year-old, and hid the weapons in a pond, he clearly understood that what he did was wrong and attempted to get away with it. So it's, if you guys, for listeners who might not be aware, the idea behind insanity goes back, like not guilty by reason of insanity, goes back to, I believe, English court systems, where they essentially came up with the policeman at the shoulder explanation, which is you're found not guilty by reason of insanity if, with a policeman next to you, you would have done the exact same thing because you just had no control over it. It's more for something a little later in the episode to discuss, but Vincent Lee from the first part of this series kind of seems like he fits that definition very, very well of criminally insane, because he was just in a bus full of people and he thought he was attacking an alien. He probably should have still been locked up, because it seems like that's a dangerous person to let chill. But he definitely was not a monster to the same extent as this kid. Also, Vincent immediately turned himself in and wasn't really hiding what he was doing. So Azuma received psychiatric treatment, had been receiving it for more than 2 years at that point. He was diagnosed with ADHD. He had killed a bunch of cats. He had made dirt sculptures. He had put blades in the school playground. He would carry knives, as we said, obsessively as a little kid. He told psychiatrists he could only attain arousal through acts of violence. He was not attracted to girls his age or women in general. He was attracted to the idea of killing humans, he said. So, he thought that killing a human would give him better pleasure than killing animals, and he considered everyone that wasn't him a vegetable, which is back to the vegetable comment that he had in his letter to the newspaper. He was described as holding nihilistic beliefs and lacking both self-esteem and empathy. He voiced no regret for his crimes, stating that it was Hase's own fault for being dumb enough to agree him to go to the mountain. Under decision of a judge, Azuma was set to be detained indefinitely at a juvenile training school. During this time, he had limited success in his rehabilitation. In 1998, he attempted to stab another juvenile with a ballpoint pen. In 1999, an out-of-court settlement had to be reached following a lawsuit by one of his victims' families. Azuma remained in juvenile custody after reaching the age of majority with his 18th birthday. And in November 2001, he was transferred to a juvenile training school, a different one, due to a good assessment in rehabilitation. He was there under a false name because Japan, even though he was now older than 18, was still protecting his identity. He eventually revealed his identity to other students, which made them bully him because he was the psycho who beheaded a kid on a mountain after strangling him with his shoelaces and cut his eyes out and cut a smile onto him and put the body in a different place and dropped the head off at an elementary school. This culminated in an incident during 2002 when he stripped naked and threatened his peers with a ballpoint pen, and then stabbed himself in the genitals with a box cutter. Which, if that's a way, there's a way to get back at your bullies. That's the one. That'll show them.
Oh my God.
This incident resulted in an extension of his detainment.
I would hope so.
Until at least 2004. Buddy, you were breathing so hard into the mic. Moses,
hey,
move.
go lay down. Go lay down.
I hope we keep all of this in. We should keep all of this in. It'll save time.
It lightens the mood.
It lightens the mood. This is a really depressing part because in March of 2003, the school applied for Azuma's provisional release.
Why?
Which is 6 years.
Bruh.
After several years of custody, he had been released provisionally in March of 2003 and was fully released from supervision in 2005, January 1st, 2005. Which means, in total, if we think about it, the big murder was 1997. So, less than 8 years later, he was released without supervision after committing 2 murders, another stabbing that was non-fatal, and 2 assaults with a hammer that were also non-fatal. And he received less than 8 years, and none of it was in a jail. He spent a total of 0 days in jail in a juvenile confinement facility, where even in the juvenile confinement facility, he attempted to stab another patient with a ballpoint pen, stabbed himself with a pair of box cutters, and was fully released from supervision. Then in 2015, recently, he published a book titled Zeka, which described the murders and his psychological state. This angered the families of the victims because it both generated and included graphic descriptions of the crimes, and it generated a lot of interest in a very unhealthy discussion about the victims.
Yeah.
And it also made more than 10 million yen for him, which is about $65,000 in USD at that time.
Wow.
Which he came out to a nice paycheck out of 0 time in prison for murders of 2 or more people. The case was kind of influential in that he was below the legal age of responsibility in Japan, which is why he received so little punishment. And also why the authorities protected him. The only way his name got out was through very good work by other journalists to keep track and figure out who the real person behind Boy A was.
Yeah.
The way Japanese law worked not only meant that he wouldn't spend time in jail for multiple murders, it also meant that he wouldn't even be able to have a negative public perception around him because they were protecting his name so much. But because of this law, because of how bad this case was, publicity-wise, when people realized that he was essentially getting away with nothing, they changed the age of criminal responsibility from 16 to 14. The problem is, it's now only 14, so basically the same thing could happen again if you're under 14 and committed these crimes. But the other issue is that they can't retroactively make him culpable. So even though they changed the age of criminal responsibility, his identity still remains officially protected by Japanese law. He is officially protected by Japanese law for killing these 2 people who were younger. And this here is the gravestone at the spot where the body was dumped for June Hayes. So that is the 4th and final episode, thank goodness, in our Crime and No Punishment series. What did you guys learn from this series as a whole?
People can be sick.
People are sick.
Who is the worst person? You weren't here for one of the contenders for worst person, but that one's pretty bad.
I heard
too.
a little bit about it though. I feel like the person before this one.
Mark Dutroux, the pedophile.
Yeah, he did the most.
Yeah, I feel like he was the worst.
Yeah.
But at least he did finally get life.
Yeah.
But
it took way too long for him to get there.
Yeah. And his wife got let out very quickly.
Yeah.
Again. A second time. Yeah, so if you guys... who do you think was like the most justified early release for the 4... Because even though Dutroux did get life eventually, he also had an early release after his initial wave of crimes. Of the 4 that got their early releases, which one makes the most sense to have been released early? I think it's between this one, because he was a kid when it happened, and the second one.
I think the bus guy.
The bus guy, because he was
actually insane. I don't think it was his fault. I think he was just really messed up.
The one, although I will say the one that makes the most sense for why it happened the way it did, to me, is the first one.
Oh,
just because of the way that he's going from France to
Japan
and all the stuff. So that makes the most sense of how it happened. But
all right, and then the last and probably most important question. You're going to have dinner with one of these 4 people.
Oh.
Who are you picking, and where are you going to eat? And if it's the first one, you cannot be on the menu. Actually, for the second one, it was man, that was horrible. A lot of these people are pretty messed up.
Is none of the above answers?
You're not even a little curious to interview one of them? It'd be good publicity for the podcast.
You can interview him. I'm not.
I feel like if I had to pick, probably the last one.
This guy?
I guess because he was a kid. Although I would say probably the bus killer.
Okay.
For me, just because at least he's just insane.
Yeah.
Also,
because he is insane, I would be too scared that he would do it again to me. Whereas, like, this guy's...
Yeah, I'm not sure I would be that worried about it.
Yeah,
for me, but...
It's funny, you fit his victim profile way more than you do. He wasn't like a serial killer hunting women. He stabbed a carnival barker on a bus.
Well, I mean, what are you saying? I'm a carnival barker?
No, I'm just saying you're closer to Tim McLean than she is.
Yeah.
No, also, if you interview him, you can find out, like, what God's saying. He was tapped in. He had a wired connection.
Yeah. He thinks that you're the alien.
Oh. Also, maybe he was actually seeing aliens. Like, has anyone thought that maybe he was right and we were all wrong? I mean, sorry, that's not a good... No, you know what? Scratch
we'll
that.
Find out one day.
You know what? Yeah, we will talk... We'll be back with you next week with more interesting episodes. Stay tuned. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. I'm sorry, this is a horrible series. This is such a bad decision. Thanks for sticking with us. See you next time.
Moses, say bye. Tell him.
You wouldn't shut up all episode. Now you're gonna be quiet.
Say bye.
Tell him.
Tell him. Good boy.
Good boy.